Give you the one free, I can't smell. Reach the back.
So I started Zoom recording. It's recording, but we're gonna cut it out. It's easier than starting it.
While you're reading. Yeah.
It does use this camera. So if you're behind the podium, great. If you're not, we can try to like.
Yeah, I
tilt
would
a
probably
little
be
bit.
right here because if I go over here, then I'm right into the light, so I'm probably gonna. I think this is my only option.
Oh, of course, of course. Of course, Mr. Sherman. Thanks, tech guy. If that's the case, then I'm just gonna leave the camera on. As long as we get audio, we're good.
I am totally okay.
Well, you got like dressed up in nice. All right, if you have any questions, please don't mess with the Zoom stuff, but other than that, if you have any questions.
The only touching I will do is when I back out of that and then go on to handshake and show them how to use it and then go back into that. It's all my game plan.
I have to click over there so this works.
Right, so if we, because we'll minimize this, to open, stop record.
This is sharing the whole screen.
Do I need do we need a mic check?
No, you can
No.
you can use them right now.
Oh, okay.
There are
There you go.
unless you're like screaming into the microphone.
No, no.
But
I
that should
will-
not be happening.
No.
So if, so the mic only works with,
It only works like sort of in this vicinity.
okay,
So don't move. from
That's
this
right.
side.
Take questions from students.
okay.
Yeah, we had that problem last semester too.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
But
well,
those
they
are
can-
not ours, right? Those belong to.
Those were.
Okay.
We can just have them, yeah, for questions for the
Yes,
panel.
yeah.
That's-
You
Yeah,
should-
yeah, yeah. We'll, I'll jump out and go get the panels. Thanks, sir. For not, you know, letting me spend 2 hours teaching.
No. Keeping it a rotation. Yeah, it's kind of like the first thing since I've been back. That's like a big event. So it's kicking off the semester. in my opinion.
Yes. It's always nice to see them in person.
Yes, it's such a difference. Like the connection.
Yes.
Very much so.
So, do you want to start right at one? Yes.
Karen, you tell us whatever you want to do. We are here.
Started, source at one.
I mean, they're gonna trickle in. I know how they work.
Yeah.
You should do 5 after. I don't have this crunch of information that needs every minute. So just stick to schedule,
Yeah.
knowing if I know students.
They'll roll in 5, 10, 15.
Yeah.
I know how this goes.
Show some grace with 5.
Okay. Did it
Thank
work?
you. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like a performance hall slash church slash lecture hall.
I don't really, like the stage makes it. Yeah, I'll go hide around the corner when you're not, or you just yell, Shelly, I need you.
On the mic, right? You see me flop around.
Yeah, like,
Floundering.
yeah, I'll start talking. Will it make sense? Probably not, but that's okay. You know, Michelle's like, I'm sorry. No, and you're by yourself. I'm like, no, we'll be fine. We're the masters in improvisation.
So they're all like a mix. I'll kind of ask them who's graduating. in
Second place. Are they, okay, is this cohort, are they set to graduate in May? Or they potentially May or next fall?
May and next fall.
Okay, that's the only.
It's a combination of a traditional 1 semester and year long.
Okay.
So we have the year-long second semester that are not here today. And we need to target them because they're graduating in May. So if you can put a nice flyer and for them to register, they're gonna,
We'll have a mix and mingle. I have it done. I just had it, I needed it resized, so I'll get that to you
so,
with it all.
so I can post it on Blackboard. Blackboard is we
Their
have
main
a
means.
clinical professional experiences And that way everybody will get it.
Right, so we pretty much have some May grads and then December grads. We don't want those December grads to think, hey, I'll just pay attention to later. There's the time.
I did recommend, the supervisors were like, are they really need to come? And I said, yes, it is a good experience. I said, and we moved it to Friday evening. I said, because it's, they don't have classes on Friday
For the
evening.
mix and mingle or the-
Yeah.
Oh, for mix and mingle.
Mhm. So there's no excuse.
Yeah.
No, there's not.
I said, and that way.
You're like, help me help you.
I haven't talked to a large group in a while. I mean, we've been on break. I haven't seen
Yeah.
most people I've seen in weeks.
My people feel today.
You're gonna test how loud I can talk into a
Little bit.
microphone today. Whew. First of all, I hate going. Is it always, it's the pitchy, echoey if you, I don't know. You can always tell you have some that are always like prompt, ready to go, and then you have some that probably drag their feet until.
And I had two very sweet that came in, they're in the front to apologize for the behavior and how some of the peers were behaving and how rude they were.
Where was?
This morning.
Hope that energy went away.
Oh, yeah. But they're so sweet. They're like, but you remain so calm and you handle it very well. But we want to let you know that we appreciate everything that you and your team do. It's like,
Nice.
that's why
Yeah,
I
can I work those
continue
Yeah.
to do what I do.
Yeah, it's the truth.
It's like, it reminds me of like preschool when they do eyes on me, like 1, 2, 3, eyes on me.
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, man.
What do with my tail? It's wild. Yeah, see, I knew they'd all trickle in.
I'm glad we waited.
I told you they would all, if, I know students well enough to know, it's like. Which is funny because to me, I feel like teachers would be like
Exactly.
prompts, but that's just me. This,
You want this one on?
it's recording.
Oh, it's recorded.
Yeah, you're good. It's the camera's just not on.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, it's recording. The camera's not on. You're good.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Welcome back. I hope you had a good break. And this afternoon, we have a very exciting session. We have our colleagues from career services. They're going to provide a lot of good information that is going to be useful as you prepare for the job interviews, for you to prepare your resume. And today, as I mentioned earlier, they have a panel of school district representatives. They're coming to speak to you about their districts and provide also some recommendations, some guidance as you go through your preparation and to answer some of the questions that you might be having. And today we have Sarah
Gady.
Sarah Gady and Chai, no, they're gonna be the co-facilitators for this afternoon session.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Gady, and I am one of the assistant directors of career development in the Career Center. And today I am going to talk to y'all about resources available and services that the Career Center provides you. So that'll help support you in your career development as you're nearing graduation. So exciting times ahead. Like this is my co-presenter for portions of it, Shai, and she'll help us out with some events relevant to y'all throughout next semester. How many of y'all are graduating in May? Yes, the light, you can see the light, right? Like the end of the tunnel somewhat. Very, very small for now. What about December? We have some December grad in here. Good, so again, that's gonna come faster than you know it. And so today, again, no matter what semester you're graduating, whether it be in May or in December, please keep in mind this is all relevant. There is no like wait till the last minute here because we don't want any more stress, right? We got enough to think about. So that's my intention here today is to help you with some resources to start thinking about these processes to make your life easier as you transition out of your college experience and into your career work. Woohoo! So with that said, just a little bit about what the career services does, and we'll go more into depth on each of these services, so you know what to expect from these service. But just a quick overview, we'll talk about our services that entail individual appointments, how you can look for different jobs, or opportunities post-graduation, some virtual resources that are helpful for y'all that you can use now, and then some post-graduation as well, not all, but we'll talk about that. And then some events that are going on in the spring to help you connect with those school districts too, and put yourself out there and get those opportunities that you've been working so hard to land throughout your college experience. And then we also offer workshops throughout the semester too that you can attend and take advantage of, as well as know that as an alumni, if you're embarking on that portion, being an alumni, you can utilize the Career Center services for life. So good news there too. Don't listen to this, but just know that's in your back pocket and you need it. All right. So I am going to pass this over to Shai to talk about a very important survey that's very quick and brief, and she'll tell you a little bit about that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cheyenne Knox, and I am the Employer Engagement Manager, and I know I've already seen some of you pull out your phones and scan that QR code. If you haven't done so, please scan that. What that does is when we have school districts reach out wanting to connect with students, you have to give permission to release the information, but it also tells us what school districts you all are interested in, which will help us kind of tailor events as we go about the service about her. So I'll give you all a quick minute to do that, and then if you're running into issues, let me know. How long does the survey take? 3 minutes. Okay. Let me see. So I can take a little pause. Oh, okay. Okay. Put it in on the handshake.
Raise your hand if you still need a couple minutes for the survey. Okay. Sure, no problem. How many of us still need some more time? Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and just dive into it with the time that we have today. And then we can have Shai on standby if anyone needs some assistance with the survey as well. So let's dive into it with those services, right? And by the way, y'all pay for these in your tuition, so definitely take advantage of it. We like helping you, so we'll take a good look at all the services available to you all. Okay, so really the Career Center is the cornerstone of your career development, and we want to be able to help support that. We know you work so hard in your academic studies that we want to help you not only exploring your career passions, but putting those into action as well. So again, if you ever, I know currently you all know the guiding point is being in the teaching field and knowing if those interests change or you want to grow in different areas in your career, that's where Seeking Alumni, as an alumni seeking our services, can come in handy. And if you ever want to do a career pivot or anything like that in your future, that's definitely an option that you can discuss with one of our career consultants as well. So again, we offer various opportunities, whether it's a full-time level or internship or part-time job level. And then just offering connections with employers, like Shai was mentioning. She's going to talk a little bit here soon about that Mix and Mingle event that's going on in March, where you can connect with different ISCs and learn about those opportunities and see what's the best fit for your career path. So individualized appointments, we get a lot of feedback of like, well, what does this look like? If I'm going to schedule an appointment with a career consultant, I kind of want to know what that looks like, right? Makes sense. And so we offer a variety. So I'll just kind of go down the list in a little bit, providing a little context of what that might look like when you're meeting with a career consultant. Good news is we both do in-person and virtual appointments. So ever since like the pandemic hit and post-pandemic, virtual is where it's at. I noticed a lot of y'all like to schedule virtual appointments. I get it, it's convenient, but do know that we offer in-person appointments as well. So both to convenience your busy schedule. And so with that said, a career exploration and planning can entail like, I'm not sure what I want to do, or I have this interest in this area. It can start from there, but it could also be like I was saying earlier, if you wanted to discuss a career pivot, that's oftentimes what we talk about with alumni is I've been doing this for a certain amount of years, I'd like to change into this. How can that be transferable? How can the skill sets and experiences I have transfer into that? So that is another service that's available wherever anyone is at in their career journey. We also offer a career assessment. So sometimes it's hard for us to quickly identify, hey, I'm interested in this in a career context. We tell you all about the food I like to eat, the places I like to go, but sometimes when it comes to a job or a career field, that's a little harder because there's so many different options out there. So a career assessment can be a good place, even no matter where you're at in the journey, whether some of you may have taken a career assessment in AIS many moons ago, but even for an alumni, I'll sometimes put it back on as in our radar, just to kind of see where some interests have maybe changed over the years and use that as a baseline to determine where maybe that career pivot could be. Or even just in your same field, what topics within that field or areas within that field could be a further match to your career interests as well. So job and internship search assistance. So here, just know for internships, that's a database where students are looking for an internship. I know what's more relevant for y'all is looking for that full-time entry-level position. So those could be available in Handshake when you're looking for that full-time job. We do recommend students to look their last semester. So again, don't put that off after graduation. I feel like this group already knows that, but just to put that out there, don't wait till after graduation because there is a different timeline involved. Say some of us have had part-time jobs and that has been a little quick turnaround. With full-time professional positions, there's a little more mistake with the hiring process, the application timeline, even being a benefits eligible position. There's going to be a longer timeline in being able to solidify that position with interviewing, multiple interviews and so on. So just keep that in mind as well. With that said too, knowing you'll need documentation, whether it be a resume, my colleague Brianna is coming at 2 o'clock to talk to y'all and start that process about resume formatting and cover letters and all the documentation involved in that next phase. But we do review individualized resumes, cover letters, CVs. That is an appointment type you can select in Handshake, but we also have some virtual resources to help support your need there as well that I'll talk about. We are going to be doing some drop-ins in the spring semester as well. So keep a look on Handshake for those drop-in dates. That'll help support if you're not able to get in for your appointment time to kind of bank on those in-person drop-in times so you can come in and quickly have your resume reviewed, whatever fits your schedule at that time too. So on that same vein, interview assistant. That's probably the next thing to consider once one has all their resumes squared away, knowing that interview. What do I need to say in an interview, do in an interview, prep for an interview, the before, during, and after phases of interviewing is something that we can help you with. So an appointment with a career consultant could look like more of coaching. Like I just want to know what to expect in an interview, what I need to do to prepare, what I need to do after, all those hoops that you'll need to jump through during that time. Or the appointment could look like a mock interview where career consultant would have a list of interview questions and you can sit and practice your answers and get feedback. So good news is the choice is yours on what type of practice you'd like. We do have students who kind of want to start out with that coaching side, but then follow-up appointment be let's sit down and do a practice mock interview. That's totally okay. Again, there's no limit on appointment types or number of appointments. Take advantage of whatever services that you need. Take advantage of that with our career consultant team. And then professional networking assistance is one. This is a big variety because we know networking can occur online, like your online footprint. So what does your LinkedIn profile look like? Roadrunner Network is a great new feature that we have relatively new, where you can connect with other UTSA alum in your career fields of interest. It's like a LinkedIn, but think just for UTSA students and alumni. So that feature could be talked about in your appointment, learning about an elevator pitch, really introducing yourself, that strong introduction, really feeling confident in that. And that's something that the Career Center can help you build and do outline and practice with, if that's something you're seeking. So professional networking has a lot of variety to it. It can really be what really in that help requested, you'll see that you'll have that as an option in your scheduling appointment. Put whatever you're specifically thinking in there, and that'll help the career consultant in preparation of your appointment. And then graduate school and professional school assistance. So if you're thinking more schooling is in your field, and this is one of the things that I see a lot of alumni take advantage of, because a lot of people like to get that professional work experience first after they graduate, but then maybe they're like, well, I want to go to graduate school in this area. Let me seek some assistance there. I don't know how to find those programs. I need my documents reviewed, whatever process is at that point in time, just know that that's an appointment type that you can schedule. So getting different jobs and experience building, again, Handshake, I'll show you, I'll do a quick demo of that here in a little bit. Like I was saying, that's where you can look for entry-level positions. That's where they can be housed in there. Different areas, we fall under the Career Engaged Learning Division. The Career Center has various offices that fall alongside it under the Career Engaged Learning Division. And so we have the NASIM Center, which is right next to our office. If some of you walk by and see that, that would do project-based learning in the community. They do offer programs available for alum over the summer, the NASIM Strategist program. So something to maybe look into if you're wanting to get involved more in an entrepreneurial spirit, that's an option as well. We have the Office of Undergraduate Research falls under Career Engaged Learning. We have the Health Professions Office or pre-law advising. So if any of you, again, that career pivot talk, if you're wanting to use that in the future, they also see alumni as well. So that's helpful with understanding like prerequisite information and getting academic advising in that space as well. And then we have the Office of Civic and Community Engaged Leadership that's really active, getting students active in the community to really build not only that resume, but your exposure to different community and nonprofit organizations. And really that's something in addition to student organizations, if you're wanting to get involved to really connect with that office as well. So we have a lot of virtual resources. I don't know, that's the feedback we've been given on our website and what we offer. So let me hone in on some key ones that would be relevant to y'all. So Handshake, like I said, probably in the next slide, I'll do a little deeper dive to show you what that interface looks like, just because with any kind of software, it's just helpful to kind of see what to expect, how to navigate. VMOC, I have a few more screen slides to show you what that looks like, and we'll talk about what that is. And then Roadrunner Network, like I mentioned earlier, is that networking platform where you can network and seek out other UTSA alumni in different career fields in addition to your own to really see if you want to connect. There's templates on there as well, so if you're not sure how to do that outreach, if that's a new avenue for you, there's also templates that you can edit and utilize there too. Career Shift is helpful when you're in your job search and want to maintain being organized. That's a helpful tool for that. LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning is great, and I'm not aware, I don't know if alumni have access to LinkedIn Learning, but UTSA purchased LinkedIn Learning for their students. And it's a really great resource if you want to boost a skill in an area. So let's say you're reading a job description and you notice there's maybe a skill gap in one of the qualifications or requirements. Well, I would encourage you to check out LinkedIn Learning because there could be a couple course development in that you can take. And then that's also something you can put on your resume as well, in like the development and training section to put the name of that course. So for example, it's a variety of things that they'll offer training in LinkedIn Learning. For example, Excel, they'll offer training classes in utilizing Microsoft Excel, but then they'll also utilize like more of those marketable skills like leadership, teamwork, collaboration, critical thinking. So if you need to showcase development in that area or proficiency in that area, LinkedIn Learning might be another avenue you may want to consider in showcasing that on your resume as well once you've taken those courses. And then what can I do with this major? This one's really something that I push more for those first year experience students. So I won't dive into depth on that, but that's a good blueprint. If any of you are curious to check it out and see based on your major, what some different areas fall under that major and employer type. So that can help you with your career planning journey as well. So with Handshake, I will do my best at multitasking with the microphone and the computer. But I want to show you a little bit about what Handshake looks like when you're in your profile. Thanks, Shai. So this is in our example profile, UTSA Rowdy. So really, I'd recommend filling this out if you're wanting to connect with employers. And see on this profile, it says it's hidden from employers. Well, we have to have that example profile hidden from employers because we want employers to reach out to our test profile. So for you all, if you are wanting to connect with employers and you've polished up your profile, please make that visible to employers so they can connect with you. But as you can see, you can put a summary, and good news is you can link up pretty much maybe if you have a LinkedIn summary that you've worked on and you're like, hey, why reinvent the wheel? I'll put that here. That's totally fine. And you can even sync your profiles together on your profile account. And then putting your experiences, so very similar to what you have in LinkedIn or to what's on your resume. adding that into your profile makes it really quick and easy too. So this is what it looks like when you're in your profile. If you're wanting to schedule an appointment with some of those types that I was talking about earlier, so once you're in your profile, because you schedule through Handshake, you'll go to Career Center, and then you'll go to Appointments, and then it just prompts you when you select new appointment to go by whatever your career development need is at that time, and then you get to pick a day and time and modality, meaning virtual or in person. And we use Zoom. Typically, we're using Zoom when we're doing virtual appointments, but it'll just prompt you moving forward with picking a day and time that works with your schedule and seeing which consultants on our team are available. So that's how you make an appointment. But going back to here, the main page, when you're looking for job opportunities, like I was talking about earlier, you can go in here and filter accordingly, full-time, location, keywords, similar to like if you're using a different job database like Indeed or something like that. You can use that in bookmark positions and go back to that and tailor your resume. So you can look at all the opportunities there. And based on whatever you put in your profile, it syncs up similarities to what may be your interest. So that's how you're seeing different opportunities. And then last but not least, when you're looking for events, especially the Mix and Mingle event in March, you'll go to events. And then, by the way, just so you understand, this isn't just the Career Center putting in events here. We have different departments putting in workshops that are available to all students, no matter what their major is. We have different employers putting in events, virtual career sessions, things like that. So it's important to kind of check this on the regular, and you can bookmark and add it to your calendar. So just a heads up on that, on where these types of events may be coming from. But I'm going to toss the mic over to Shai real quick to talk about the Mix and Mingle event coming up in March.
Okay, so the Mix and Mingle is going to be March 31st. Dr. Kleiss shared with me that she's already shared that date with you. It's most likely going to be up here on the main campus in the Denman Ballroom, and we'll have roughly 20 to 25 school districts coming in to speak to you all. And it's going to be more networking style. So it's not going to be the traditional career fair where, you feel like it's claustrophobic and you don't know where to walk and it's very crowded. It's going to be much more laid back, easy going. We'll have most of the local school districts, and then we'll pull school districts from Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Houston area as well, but they'll all be in the state of Texas. Does anybody have any questions on that? Yes. 4 to 6. Yes.
I know last semester this was mandatory and there were some wires crossed about if people that were supposed to get the email actually got it. So is it mandatory? Like, does every clinical teacher required to attend for some reason?
Yes.
What does that mean? We just show up and sign a sheet and we're allowed to go about our day, or?
Dr. Kleiss, do you want to answer that question?
Well,
I'm going to let you answer that question.
some, they already have a job offer, for instance.
Yes, it is mandatory for everybody. It's on the syllabus. For those of you that already have a job offer, which I know you do, and some of you got pre-hire, even during that year-long professional experience semester 1, I got a couple of students, and I was very surprised, because that's when you're doing field experience, got a job offer and an official document. So yes, for those of you, you just need to show evidence of that employment offer. But yes, it is last semester for those doing clinical teaching. We didn't have the day, so it was on the syllabus was CPA to be announced. And so anyway, so we are getting better with the communication, and the Blackboard, clinical professional experiences Blackboard, we have announcements there, and I know sometimes it gets confusing because we have students that are doing the professional experience, they're doing field experience and not necessarily clinical teaching, and they get those announcements as well. But yes, if you have any questions, please always reach out to your supervisor, email the clinical professional experiences the email address, and I monitor that email address, and Dr. Stone and another person that assists in monitoring and responding to those emails.
So if we're in year-long clinical teaching, does this also apply to us, or is there gonna be another one in the fall semester? If that makes sense too.
It applies to you because it's a very good experience.
Okay.
Yes, and then in the fall, there's gonna be another another event.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, last question.
Just as a follow-up, so somebody mentioned earlier that they might not get out of class until, or school, you know, at our placement school until after 4. I know last week there was one day when I didn't leave until almost 5:30. So how does that work? If we're gonna be late, should we just email? Or if there's traffic and we won't make it on time?
We're providing this date and time, 3 months, 2 months in advance for you to communicate to your mentor teacher and the campus administrator and plan accordingly.
Okay,
Yes.
so if they're planning or something like that, this should take precedence.
This is, yes, this is, one of those days. I told you that the EPP, our educator preparation program, requires 72 days. So on this day, and it's at the end of the day, because we want to make sure that you have the day for, the count of an instructional day, for you. But it's at the end of the day, and like I said, you can, coordinate with your mentor teacher and your supervisor.
Sorry, keep going. All right, go ahead, sir.
Is there another question?
Do you, Dr. Clace, do you want to take questions after so Sarah
Oh,
can
yes,
get through?
go ahead.
Okay, go on.
Promise I'm almost done. So quickly, just about BMOC. So again, I wanted to show the resource page again. When you're on our Career Center page where you hit resources, then you can see all the different virtual resources that are available to you. So this is what it looks like when you log into BMOC. And what BMOC is a resume reviewing software. So why I push this now versus after graduation is because this is not a platform available to alumni. So again, if you're wanting to get your resume reviewed and get instant feedback, then you can do so by uploading up to 10 resumes per academic year. So keep that in mind as well. Then you can get instant feedback based on the formatting, the presentation, the competencies, so marketable skills, seeing if that's reflected into your document. Again, it's just, this is a great starting point. Don't let the score it gives you define who you are as a human being. I just get a lot of students who say that, oh, I got a really low score and they're really beat up by it. Again, take that with a grain of salt, and look at what the feedback is saying, and then use that if you have questions about formatting to talk about with your career consultant when you're in an appointment. I think that's what's important is the content is saying. Yeah, question in the back. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, so you can make an appointment anytime. Our office of availability is 8 to 5. So anything within that window, say you go into Handshake, schedule an appointment, you will see based on the time that you're thinking of, you will see, and what appointment time, you will see the consultants that are available based on that time we selected. Yeah. Sure. So if you have an issue, again, we have that window up until 5, but you can always contact our office if you need to make arrangements outside of that time. There could be an opportunity with Brittany Salinas, who is the liaison to College of Education and Human Development, to put together if there's enough need there, if students have demonstrated enough need to have that service outside those hours. Potentially could be an event created or a workshop created after hours if there's enough demand there, absolutely. Yes. So when you're on our website, you will go to the Career Center website, and then under resources, you'll see BMOC, and you'll also see it on our main page too. And then when you're in VMOC and you log in, because it'll use your single sign-on information, then you'll see this as like your dashboard. Yes, you're welcome. And then once you click on the resume, you'll see detailed feedback about the resume that you chose to upload beyond just the score. So, any other questions? I'll do a little touch point questions and anything I've discussed so far, since we had a few. So then Roadrunner Network looks very similar to like LinkedIn, but like I was saying, think of that as this exclusive membership with just UTSA current students and alumni. So you make a profile, again, you can sync your profile, just like there's a lot of profiles going on these days, so you have that option to sync that up or create that, copy and paste that same content. We do have features that I'll talk about here where knowing there's a lot of profiles entails a lot of pictures, correct? And so recently by our office, in front of our office in that side corner in the student union by where the elevator is on the second floor, there's what's called an iris booth. And it's a self-serving photo booth that you can go in on your own, put in your UTSA email. You get to take a couple photos in the booth. Again, no one's watching. There's no screen out there showing everybody your photo or anything like that. It's for your benefit only. And you can take your professional photo in that booth. And so it's a really great tool. I used it recently. I was like, oh, I like this. You can even whiten your teeth on there too. It has some filters. It's great. So you can use that to create a profile picture. And that booth, again, is open as long as the student union's open, that booth is open. So it's self-serving. You don't need anyone to help you with it. Again, if you do need help with it, you can ask our office and we can help you use it. But it's a great feature to have. And so, like I was saying, Roadrunner Network, you can connect, you can search other alumni in a similar field that you want to connect with. Maybe you have a certain ISD you want to connect with and see any alum that have mutual connections there. You can look into that. Great feature there. And so, like Shai was saying, one of the many events that we offer in connection with employers, we offer various career fairs for various industries. We also collaborate with different institutions like the HSI Career Fair. That one will be virtual this semester. You will see different employers tabling across campus in the semester. And then also events like Career Palooza that we host every spring, where it's a chance to mix and mingle with different employers, different career development, career engaged learning staff, and also success centers across campus to really know what all your resources that are available to you all. So we have partners from local, state, national, international companies that partner with us as well. And so here we have workshops that do go on throughout the semester. One of our biggest connectors are student orgs requesting. So if any of you are a student org leader or know of any student orgs that are looking for some professional development in their organization, on our Career Center website page, we also have a presentation request form that one can fill out, but you will see different workshops being held in that event section throughout campus and in connection with your student organizations as well. I already talked about the Iris booth for professional headshots. And then we also offer a career planning course. If maybe some of you graduating in December may need an elective, there's a career planning course available. And then we will be hosting drop-ins periodically throughout the spring semester. So those will be posted on our website. But just keep in mind, as a rough estimate, just know that they fall the day before all our expos, as well as after the expos, they'll be end of the month from a 9:30 to 3:30 window. So say you're wanting to get an appointment and can't get one, or you're on your lunch break and want to do a virtual appointment, that's another style that you can select in Handshake. But for those drop-ins, they'll be in person only. Okay, already talked about alumni and career center services. Those services to schedule an appointment with a career consultant are available for life. So like I said, take advantage of that if you are needing career development services. And we do have some social media channels you can connect with if you're wanting to learn of different events across campus or certain employers. Feel free to connect with us there. And we have our location in the Student Union Building. Second floor, right above the bookstore, is where our office is located on the main campus. And then we have our downtown campus location as well. And there is our website as well, the QR code to scan our website as well. So does anyone have any questions that haven't been answered yet? All right, thank y'all.
And you all will get a copy of this presentation. Dr. Weiss will add it to your Blackboard.
And congrats on upcoming graduation. Definitely we're celebrating.
$15-minute break. Right, or 1:55.
I also get to grant y'all with a 15-minute break. So please be back at 2, because I know Brianna will definitely provide a lot of great information about resumes. So thank y'all.
And next slide.
You never know. Sometimes we buffer and sometimes they take it up. But let me just, and yeah, I can X out of my presentation. I know Brianna will be able to dive into hers. And I forgot about that. So thank you for.
Yeah, I'm trying to see, oh, right here.
Hi, everybody. Can y'all hear me? Okay. I haven't been in front of this many people in forever, so I'm really excited. I am also from the Career Center, so Sarah, she's my supervisor, the one that talked to y'all before. I am not Brittany, she's y'all's liaison. I'm covering for her because she's on maternity leave right now. But my name is Brianna. We often get our names mixed up, so it's fine if you call me Brittany or call her Brianna, it happens. But how many of y'all have resumes put together that you're like, I can get to you right now and get a job? Hey, nice. Okay, how many of y'all are like, I don't even want to look at my resume? Yeah, normally it's a little bit more of those. So hopefully today after this, you'll have a little bit more understanding of what to include on your resume. But of course, if anything, we are always available for one-on-one appointments, but I think Brittany will also have sessions again for y'all, like she did last semester to work on those. Okay, so a resume, other than, highlighting your work, why do you feel it's important to have one tailored to a specific IMC or employer that you're looking for? Yeah, y'all can just shout out.
They might have like specific requirements.
Yeah. Specific requirements, anything different?
Maybe the culture there is different. You want to know about.
The culture is different, could be. Yeah. Say that again. Why else is it important to tailor your resume to an employer? Anything else?
Want to make sure that they know you'll be good at your specific job and not general sense.
Yeah, so yes, all of the above are correct. Y'all pretty much have the same education, you'll get the same experience with clinical teaching. It's still unique to you, right? Because you're going to experience it differently from another person, and that's what we mean by tailoring the resume. You'll still have your general marketable skills and qualifications, but what they really want to see is what makes you different from the student teachers in the industry, right? So sometimes it really is just about tailoring it very slightly to the population that you want to be in. But it also helps with interviewing. So a lot of the times, whatever you put on your resume is fair game for an interviewer to ask you about. So when it comes to your resume, make sure whatever is on it, you can talk about it to no end, because if they ask you about it, and you're like, I don't quite remember, it's not the best to them. So on resumes, it also helps you prepare yourself for your interview as well. So there are technically two types of resumes. One is chronological, where it's just most recent and first. That's pretty common, what we see all the time. They just want to know what experience, what education you have, that's most recent. But you can also have a functional one. So for instance, if you have specific technology skills that you feel would be important for whatever you're going into, maybe you have that higher on the resume. But for someone else who those tech skills aren't as important for the grade or area of study that you're going to be teaching, you may have it lower on the resume. So functional is highlighting specific things higher on a resume than maybe someone else would, and that's also what we do that too. So oftentimes we see a combination of the two, but if anything, chronological would probably be the way to go. So there are several different sections on a resume. You don't have to have every single one of these because you may not have the experience to fill out all these sections. But these are the most common ones we see on a resume. And we will give you this presentation, by the way, afterwards, so you'll have it. Resume tips. So the reason we're talking about tailoring chronological or functional, these different sections as well, depending on what you have, is because they don't look at your resume for very long. You spend all this time writing it and putting it together and stressing over it, but they only look at it for about 10 to 20 seconds because they, on average, probably have about 100 applications per opening, and for y'all, actually a little bit more, especially right now with the shortage. So it's really, really important to work on your resume because those 10 to 20 seconds could be, do I get an interview or not? And it happens really, really quickly. So in order to help kind of push yourself past that, we want to motivate them. So an objective, what exactly are you looking for? Seeking a teaching position in XYZ, right? Or seeking to use XYZ skill for this type of position or area of study or anything like that. The qualifications, your certifications, right? Those are going to go higher on your resume because you kind of need those. And if you have them all the way on the bottom, they may assume just because they're looking at it so quickly that you don't have it, or you don't have a specific one that they're looking for. So you want that higher on the resume. Relating your skills to a position you're applying for. What would y'all say are common skills that y'all will be using in your roles? Teamwork, communication.
Sure.
Collaborate.
Yeah, so these are some of the words that you can be putting on your resume because that's what they're going to be looking for as well. They want to know, can they communicate? It's an assumption that you can because you did a degree, but they're going to want to see how you communicate. Do you communicate one-on-one? Do you communicate in groups? Do you communicate as a leader? Right? So when you're thinking about the skills, don't just think about it as, oh, I'm talking to a parent or a student. How are you talking to them? What's the purpose of talking to them? That gives you a little bit more insight into how you use that communication skill. Because I may use it differently than you do. And so we can articulate that on a resume and our bullet points and stuff too. And then of course, any successes and achievements, so scholarships, awards, even if it's in a student org that you may have been in, you can always highlight those because it does showcase that leadership ability too. And then irrelevant information. We kind of see this more when students are trying to put like hobbies on there, if it's not really relevant to what you're going to be doing. It's great that you have a hobby and you can definitely talk about it in an interview, but for a resume, they're going to look right over it and it's just going to up to them. So make sure once you've written your resume, say, does this add value to this position I'm applying for or want to get interviewed for? And if it's just like, oh, it'd be nice to know that I do that, probably would be smart to take that off and just leave it for a conversational kind of thing. So this is where I was talking about the tailoring piece, and this is just more stuff that you don't have to put on your resume because it kind of adds to that bias, and you definitely are not trying to have that in the workplace anymore. So any of the personal data topics you don't have to have on a resume. Even the city state is optional, especially if you're open to moving. You can leave that blank, or like, let's say you're wanting to go to Dallas, you can put Dallas, Texas, you know, you're gonna end up living there anyway. Just to kind of showcase that, or just leave San Antonio, Texas, or again, leave it blank, that is totally optional. And you don't have to put a full address on a resume anymore. Now to get more into the specifics of the sections. This is gonna be more formatting and structure, which we get a lot of questions about. So you can go down to a 10-point font on your resume, right? Because we always say try to leave it at 1 page unless you have extensive work experience or history and volunteering and stuff. But generally, it's gonna be that 1 page. If you need to go down to a 10-point, go for it. If you need to go down to a 0.5 margins on all sides, go for it. You can manipulate those as well as the spacing to put what you need to on that 1 pager for your resume. Another thing that helps with that is not to have long paragraphs, because if an employer sees a paragraph, I can guarantee you they're not going to read it, and they're probably just going to put your resume to the side. Because again, they go through so many and it takes time to go through them. So that's where those bullet point pieces come in. Those very straight to the point, action verbs, results, purpose in that action bullet point for yourself. You can also add achievements to the bullet points too. So if you're like, no, I really want to highlight this achievement, you can make it a bullet point with an experience as well. Even if it's on leadership, teamwork, it doesn't have to be specific to like student teaching. If it's relevant in terms of, again, those marketable skills, you can make it a bullet point. The keyword and phrases, this is where it comes in handy to look at like your class descriptions, your syllabi and stuff, because odds are the same language that are used in there, you can use on your resume, because that's what's most familiar, right? If I put customers all over my resume, but I'm gonna be teaching students, that's gonna be like, do they know what they're signing up for, right? So you're gonna have students on here, whereas mine, I could have students or clients, because I have 2 different jobs. So I would tailor it towards whatever one I'm going for. So just make sure that language matches with the industry you're in too. And sometimes a simple Google search of a position can help with that as well. Writing style. So free from grammatical spelling, punctuation usage, and typographical errors. This is super, super important, especially if you're going to highlight that you're detail-oriented on your resume as a skill. I've seen so many students put detail-oriented, but then their margins aren't correct, their dates aren't aligned, they have a lot of typos, and to me, that tells me you're not detail-oriented. And so they really do look at that stuff, like spacing, consistency, format, like all of that stuff does matter, and it's tedious, I will say, and can be annoying sometimes when you can't get it right. But they do look at this stuff because it's an extension of how much effort you put into it. So if you're having all kinds of errors on here, they're going to say, okay, well, what does their work look like? How are they going to be able to do their job, right? It may not be an correct assumption, but it still could be one. There will not be complete sentences, so you won't have periods at the end of anything on your resume. For the bullet point sections, it may sound funny, but they're just not going to be complete sentences. Again, the ease for the reader to get through it quickly. And we also don't put any me, my's, or I. So if you do have it and that's the way you write, it's okay to say I am an aspiring XYZ, and then take off I am a and just say aspiring student in blah blah blah. So if it works for your brain, because me, I have to write that way, I have to write a full sentence and then articulate it. I just do it faster that way. Do it, but just make sure you are everything. I need to add it in totality of the rest. And as far as acronyms, we may know what they stand for, but we shouldn't assume everybody does, even if they are an alum, because they may not be the only person looking at your resume. So anytime you want to put the acronym, kind of that general rule where you'll say like University of Texas San Antonio parentheses UTSA, and then throughout the rest of the resume you can put the acronym. You can do that, but that first time you're going to have to spell it all the way out, including your degree. And then we already talked about the alignment and all of that stuff too. So the contact information, the only other thing with this is if you have a LinkedIn and you're semi-active on it, you can put it on there as well. But for your field, it's not as important to have your LinkedIn. It's really just going to be your professional communication as far as your phone number and email. And with the email, you can use your UTSA one. That one doesn't go away even once you graduate. We confirmed that with UTS, so it doesn't go away. You can always log into it or completely create a new one specifically just for job searching. Or if your personal one isn't, you know, kind of those really funny ones that we don't want to share, you can use that one too, but just make sure it's professional enough to include on a professional document. And then headshots, this is also a common question we get. You do not want to include a headshot on your resume, again, because it more so creates bias than not, unfortunately. So for your field, no headshots. An objective. So this is where I was saying being direct and intentional with your resume and making sure you are switching it if you are applying to multiple areas. But it's very simple. It's 1 to 2 sentences explaining your professional goals or what you're wanting to do. Even if you're like, I'm not too sure yet, you can make it broad and general, and that's where the skills come in. Seeking a teaching position, utilizing XYZ skill or knowledge. The summary of qualifications, this is kind of what's substituting the skill section. So if y'all have ever seen resumes before, they have skill section, it's just like bullet pointed 1 to 2 word things. We're slowly starting to see it transition to a summary of qualifications because you can put more of your personality into it, which is really hard to do on a resume because it's quite literally black and white. So summary of qualifications is taking those skills you would have listed, but putting it into context. So again, this is where you can highlight how you can use communication or adaptability or leadership, collaboration, all of those main skills you want to highlight, you make it more you in this section. This is just an example of how you're going to list any kind of certificates, certifications, or trainings that you may have. It's very straightforward. You're just listing it and saying pass. If you're about to take something, you can also say that, and where you have passed, you would just put the date that you're going to take it, or if you've taken it and waiting, pending results. So just because you haven't completed something doesn't mean you can't put it on there, because you will eventually have it. Or even if you're eligible to sit for something, you can put eligible for. Education section, this is another area where you can put scholarships or academic honors, so Dean's List, President's List, all of that stuff too. You don't have to have that in a separate section if you don't have the room for it, but if you do, it can be separate. You don't have to put high school anymore because y'all are way past that. Usually after the first year, you take high school stuff off in case, unless you have really relevant high school experience to highlight, but then again, it's just that one specific thing. Yeah, so if you go to your unofficial transcript on ASAP, it will list that in the semester you got it. Yeah. And yeah.
So if I was like, for example, applying for a job at the high school that I used to attend, with adding my previous, going to that high school in my resume, be appropriate in that situation, perhaps?
You could, yeah, I've seen students do that, or just put the city, state, and their location in their header. Any other questions? Okay. GPAs, another really common thing we get asked. Don't put your GPA on there if it's below a 3.0. Other than that, it's completely your preference if you want to highlight your GPA or not. I've had some students who a 3.8 is amazing for them, they work really hard for that, and they want to put it on there. And some others, it was, no, I'd rather focus on this part of my experience. That is completely fine, but if you're gonna put it on there, make sure it's a 3.0 or above. And then relevant coursework, if you're doing any kind of specialty or you eventually do some kind of specialty, so even thinking future tense, and you took a class that would articulate some of that knowledge, you can put relevant coursework underneath the education section as well, just to further, again, make you stand out on your application. So we have this section because in experience, we don't want to discount. If you babysat, if you volunteered by teaching little kids how to swim, if you're a camp counselor and stuff, all of that is experience. That still taught you how to communicate. That still taught you time management. Maybe it did teach you a little bit more project management too, or planning and organization. So any kind of experience that you have that can speak against those marketable skills is open to be put on your resume and highlighted as well. So don't discount any kind of experience that you have that can highlight those marketable skills. And then the second thing here is just that chronological order. So again, most recent, and then go backwards from there. Here is just an example of what one kind of format could look like. So it doesn't have to look like this, but as far as what content it includes, that should definitely be there. But it doesn't have to look exactly like this. Yeah, that's a good question. So how far back do we put our related experience? The rule of thumb is 10 years. Within the past 10 years, you can put it on there. If you have like 20 different things, then maybe just do like 3 or 5, but you can go up to 10 years past. So with this one, just want to highlight the bullet points again. They're not full sentences. They're not complete sentences. They don't have periods at the end. They're starting with action verbs. And if you can differentiate your action verbs, that's better. But if you have to repeat them, like there's 2 provided on here, that's okay because they're in 2 different sections. But ideally, we want to say provided behavior documentation reports. And then the next one we could say wrote weekly verbal progress reports, something like that. So just make sure that's switched up.
Would this be an example of like the summary of qualifications we're talking about?
No, so that is more It's still as far as bullet points go and not starting with like, I am an experienced sales representative. You're just taking that language out. But it doesn't necessarily have to start with an action verb for this. And here again, where it is, the job title, city, state, and then the semester year or month and year. And if it's a range, you're just putting that range too. Or if you're currently doing it, it would be like December 2022 present or current, if you're still doing it. So this is just another one of those examples of how it could be formatted when it comes to anything related to like student orgs, or if you're going to have a separate honor section or professional associations, maybe you're already affiliated with one, you're just listing it and saying that you're a member, or if it's a student org where you held a chair, you'll put your chair title there as well. But nothing too fluffy with this, it's just point blank what you were involved in. Now, I have seen students who have room on the resume, maybe they were president or vice president or treasurer or secretary, and they want to highlight their duties because it's, again, marketable skills relevant to what you're going for in teaching. I have seen students do that and format it this way. So you can just list it like this, or maybe like if that last one was president, you could have 3 to 5 bullet points underneath that structured the same. So these are just full-on examples for teaching fields. So you can see the certifications are up higher on the resume, because again, that's gonna be what's most relevant aside from what you've spent years on for your degree, right? And then the most relevant stuff will be your field teaching or your clinical teaching. And let's say you're up and coming, because I know a few of you aren't graduating this semester correctly. You can put like student teacher, the elementary school, ISD in the semester and year, but we may not have bullet points yet. You can put that on there as well if you know where you're going. And then as you start that, you can start adding bullet points to there. But only if you're for sure know that you're going there to put it on that. And then after that, it's just gonna be your general work experience if you have any, even if it's retail or food, or like I said, babysitting or anything like that. Don't discount any kind of experience. Now, yeah. No, you'll just say, you'll just put family. You won't put really any identifiers, kind of how like HIPAA and stuff, same thing. Mhm. That's fine. Yeah, the specific disability is fine, but just no identifiers of the actual like family or kid. Yes. You can just pick the top 3 or 5 most recent ones. You don't have to put all of the ones that you've done the past 10 years. Like if there's a position, which tend to happen that you're pretty much doing the same responsibilities and duties, maybe you just look at one of them. So generally say choose 3 to 5 if you have them, but if you have more than 5, then it kind of becomes redundant at that point within your knowledge and skills. So yes.
Do you put any like part-time job or full-time jobs on this resume, even if it's not related to teaching?
Yeah, that's what I was meaning by not discounting any kind of experience, because even if though it's not related to teaching, it still may have taught you communication or teamwork or something like that. And that goes for group projects in y'all's classes too. Group projects, you have to communicate, check in, prioritize, all that kind of stuff, right? So that could count as well as experience.
What if we work in like similar positions but at different places and we want to include the like years of experience we've had with it?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, so this one, I may do a little shadow over here, but okay, so like let's say we were the exact same about just a different. I would take this line right here and just put it underneath this one, and the bullet points would be the same. And then the dates over there would still show how long I was at that specific, but you can just list the title and then the bullet points. Does that make sense? Here is just another format. Again, this one is a little bit more full. We have more experiences, more bullet points, and it's just different formatting as far as like the lines and stuff. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same for every single person, but it does need to be still professional, easy to read. So that's where we go back to the general formatting of margin and spacing and stuff. You can also have color on your resume if you want to, as long as it's not bright red, yellow, or some color that's pretty hard to read for most people. But if it's a dark purple, dark blue, dark orange, stuff like that, you can use color if you want to. That's not unprofessional by any means. And most people do color on like the big headings. So education, technical skills, professional experience, that's where will be the color. The things with these templates, this one shows the name, phone number, email, and LinkedIn in the header section. If you're going to do that, please make sure you upload a PDF version of your resume to the application portal. Because if I were to submit a Word document version and my contact info and name was in the header, section of the Word document, it may completely cut it off. So then if they print it, it's not gonna print your name and contact info, and it's just one more step for the recruiter have to do, and they probably won't do it because they have to go to the next one. So just make sure if you're gonna put it in the heading to give you more room for content, save it as a PDF and only upload that one. Any questions with resume stuff? I know it's a lot of like little details here and there, but again, you'll get this PowerPoint. And then Brittany, when she comes back, will hold sessions for y'all to review resumes. Any other thoughts or questions about resumes? Yeah, so if they're electronic portfolios, instead of the LinkedIn link, you can link your portfolio there. If it's a physical copy, I'm not teaching, but I was in mental health counseling and I had a physical portfolio. I could have brought that to an interview if I wanted to. But if it's an e-portfolio, again, you can link it on a resume up in your contact info. Any other thoughts or questions? Okay, cool. So the next sections I'm kind of just going to briefly go over, but we do have resources for them nonetheless, and appointments, and Brittany will hold sessions too. We just get questions about cover letters all the time, so it is encouraged for you to have a cover letter if it's not a requirement of the job. So some ISDs may require it, some may not, but it's still good practice because, for instance, let's say you and I were applying to the same position, same education, same experience, same skills and certifications and all of that, but you wrote the cover letter and I didn't. You showed them, you put more effort and work into applying for this job than I did, and how you align more with the job than I did. So who do you think they're going to go with at that point? Right? They're going to go with you because you wrote the cover letter. So if it's optional, just know that it can be used that way. If it's a requirement, it definitely will be used that way. But just kind of that caveat from there. So with cover letters, same formatting, 10 to 12 point font, 0.5 margins on all sides if you need to. It is just one page, and it's talking about how you align to that position with your skills and experience. But you can be more detailed because this is written like we would write any other kind of paper. You can use full sentences and write pretty much an essay of how to align with it. You can use your resume kind of as a bouncing point, but don't write a cover letter that's pretty much just your resume. You could say, okay, I did student teaching here, and on your resume you have the skills, but maybe on your cover letter, you're going to explain a specific situation that you want to highlight that you felt really proud of. That's not on your resume. So it's not listing all of the skills again, it's again showcasing a little bit more how you use them. And whenever you say I feel or I believe, just how Brittany wrote it here, that's you not showing confidence. So try to avoid those and say, I understand, I am capable of, right? I feel like I may be able to do this. I think I can do this, right? It's a little bit, they're just not going to see that confidence and they're going to need to see that from you. So just try to avoid writing that, those stems for those sentences. This is just one method of kind of getting those examples. You can also use this in interviewing too. It goes hand in hand. But if you're struggling to say, okay, I know I use communication, but how do I want to highlight it on here? This is an easy way to kind of think about it and structure your sentences. Here they're written bullet points, but you can say I edited 10 news articles per week, blah, blah, blah. So this is just an easy formula to get you thinking of how to word your cover letter and your interview answers. This is an example of a cover letter. So with this one, that contact information piece is going to match your resume. So just copy and paste however you have it formatted on your resume to your cover letter as well, just for consistency. If they print out documents and place your names on them, but they're looking at these things so quick, it's easier if it's formatted the same. Then you're going to have the employer contact information. If you know the specific person you're gonna be sending this to or interviewing with, you can put their name on there, but make sure you also put their title. If not, just put the ISD or whatever administration you're going to, and then just the general address that you can find on Google, depending on where you're going, because sometimes cities have multiple ones, right? So make sure to have that contact information. And then the salutation, again, if you know exactly who you're writing to, you will put that on there, but if not, hiring manager, hiring team, search committee, any of that would work just fine. This first paragraph, it's not so much about what you're bringing as it is how you align with the ISD or whatever administration you're going to. So the easiest way to write this first paragraph is to identify the mission or vision or value statement of that organization. Choose one thing that stands out to you, and then write about how you align with it in brief. So like UTSA has integrity as a value, right? So I could say, I really appreciate UTSA's value and integrity because I tried to incorporate that into my personal and professional life. That's showing I researched the company, it's showing that I also have that value. And so I already align with UTSA on another level than just being qualified for the job, right? So that's what that first paragraph is. The second and third paragraph is where you're gonna say, here's the experience, here's my skill, here's the example. So that's where you can get into detail about some example that you may want to highlight. Then that final paragraph, super easy. It's just one of those, thank you for your time and consideration. I can be reached via phone and email. I look forward to further talking to you. Super short, super simple, just kind of closing it out. Any questions with the cover letter piece? It's a lot easier to write once you have your resume together, so we'll do that.
I wanted to ask about prior work experience, because like I've pretty much worked at the same place for like the past 10 years, but I've worked multiple different positions. Would I separate those into separate things, even though I'm working in the same exact place, same exact building? Or would I just kind of lump them all into one big section?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in that case, so if you've worked at the same company for years and years but held different positions, that's what they were asking about. This first line here, so right now, the company is in the middle, I would actually make it this. And then I would put after professional bullet points, after bullet points. So I would do it that way. So the overall encompassing would be the employer, and then you would just list bullet points. Anything else? So do y'all feel like y'all know a little bit more of how to go about looking at your resume? Yay. Okay, and again, Sarah went over all the resources and stuff with y'all too, but Brittany will be hosting sessions specifically for y'all later this semester when she gets back. So y'all can do that, but all consultants are available for appointments, and we don't know how to look at teacher resumes. So, but with that, we're gone. Well, I gotta. And I don't think our next thing is until 3, so we can only get it out.
And through that, just kind of fell in love with teaching and became very passionate about education. And so even though I didn't start there, this is where I plan to finish my career. Hi, my name is Jeannie Graham. I'm from recruitment and retention, the Northeast Independent School District. I decided that I wanted to be a teacher because I grew up in a household of teachers. And I wanted to have that same experience. I really wanted to touch the future. And 35 years later, I still believe that every year I get to touch the future. So it's one of the most rewarding career choices that you can possibly touch.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Brian Hurley. I'm also with Northeast Independent School District. I'm Director of Certified and Classified Staff for the district. And I'm post-bac UTSA. Second career for me as well. I started out wanting to be a police officer. I was a police officer in Baltimore County, Maryland. Really saw a lot of young people getting involved with the law in a negative way, and really didn't feel like I was making an impact. As a police officer, to kind of change that trajectory for them. So I decided that I wanted to become a teacher, where I could have a bigger impact on students' lives and hopefully get them down the right path. So it's been an awesome career. I've been a special ed teacher, assistant principal, and now I work for the HR department. So very blessed to have a great career.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ben Muir. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources in Northside School District. How many of you are planning or are student teaching in Northside? Awesome. Good to see you. A little bit about me. When I started college, the last thing I wanted to be was a teacher. My mom was a teacher. I grew up in her classroom. I thought I'm going to do anything but teach. And lo and behold, I changed my major 3 times, ended back in education. Came from the state of Iowa, came down here to San Antonio to student teach, and have never left. So I've been kind of like Brian. I've been a teacher, assistant principal, HR, central office administration, and now back into HR, where I feel like we can hopefully make an impact on who we're recruiting and who we're hiring. So it's good to see everybody in this room. I know the last time we were here, we were split into 2 rooms. Some people were unfortunately had to sit and watch it on a camera. So it's good to see everybody here in person.
And last but not least, I'm Mary Gomez. I'm the principal at Heritage Middle School in East Central ISD. I've been at Heritage for the last 10 years. By the way, love middle school. I know that's weird to say, but growing up, I was the nerd that loved school. I loved my teachers. I loved my schools. And so when I came here to UTSA many years ago, graduated 30 years ago, hate to say, but you know, I at first thought I want to save the world. I'm going to be a nurse. And then I thought, life and death situations, not too good at. What else can I do? What else do I like to do? And I enjoyed math. I love math. And so thought, why not? And have not looked back. And so kind of the same thing with some of the other people here, you know, teacher, assistant principal, academic dean, and so and now principal. And so there's a lot of options for you in going into education.
Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. So like Chad said, we're going to kick it off with one of our questions, and then we'll open the floor for you to ask questions. So if y'all could answer, what advice do you have for this group of clinical teachers about the start of their semester?
Pay attention, take notes, be involved. You know, everything that teacher is telling you, there's a purpose behind it, right? And so I know that whenever I see our student teachers on campus and they're involved and they're asking questions and they're talking to kids and they're tutoring and they're helping, it really helps us to see that you're vested, right? You really love to teach, and that's what we want. We want teachers that love kids, that not just love their subject, but also love kids. And so they're involved asking a lot of questions.
I'm going to just kind of say, pretty much the same thing as her, but the big thing for you guys to think about is when you're in the school, not only learn from who your cooperating teacher is, but learn from the rest of the group too, whether it's your, the department you're in, the grade level you're in. There is so much knowledge within those walls, within those teams that you can learn from. So your cooperating teacher is very, very important, and so is everybody else. And the other thing is that I highly suggest is that you get the opportunity to meet the administrators. Take time out of your, out of your day at some point and go in and introduce yourself to the principal, to the, assistant principal, whoever it may be. Invite them to come in and watch you teach. I know as a principal, I went in and observed every single student teacher that I had on my campus. Gave them a evaluation just like I did the teachers. Because for me, to have a student teacher on my campus, that was a way for me to essentially kind of seal the deal and hopefully have them teach for me at some point. So get out there and network with the people on your campus, and also just kind of whatever you can with that administrator to get your name out there, because if they don't have a position there, for us, for example, we have 82 elementary schools, 21 middle schools, 12 comprehensive high schools. There is enough connections within our district that it may not be at that campus, but it could be in another one.
I think we're going to say a lot of the same thing, but during your student teaching, really, experiment, try different things, learn from your cooperating supervising teacher, but at the same time, take a chance on something, do something different, and see if it works for you, and then be reflective, take notes, say this didn't work, this did work, so you have a better idea when you're out there in your own classroom what you'll do, and it's a great learning experience, as Ben was saying, learn from everyone. Talk to your students, get to know them, go to their events, be it a concert, be it a sporting event, whatever it may be. You showing that interest in your students is going to make your classroom management so much better. So just definitely experience everything while you're there under the protection of your supervising teacher, and really collaborate with them. They're there to help you. They want you to be successful. So, dialogue, ask questions. It's okay. We know that you're learning, so we want you to feel comfortable asking those questions.
You'll quickly discover that when you ask a fellow educator a question, they will answer it probably in greater depth than you ever imagined. So don't be afraid to ask. We like to share our craft. Walk kids out at the end of the day, find out what car they get into. It's going to be a parent or a grandparent quite often in San Antonio. Get to know the family. Volunteer for morning drop-off duty. Eat at the restaurants that are close by the school. Get to know the community. It will be the greatest benefit when you are fully invested, not only in what's going on in your classroom, but what's going on in the lives of your students. So really, really spend some time getting to know everything about your experience, because it will pay off dividends greatly as the year goes forward. I'll just say ditto for a lot of that. One of the things I will tell you is, as a teacher, I learned more from watching other teachers teach than I ever could have learned on my own. And so if you have the opportunity to visit other classrooms besides just the classroom that you were in, I would encourage you to do that. I was a CPE teacher, but I learned a great deal from science teachers who were working with fire and chemicals, and I thought, well, they can keep 30 kids under control working with fire and chemicals. What can I learn from them? And so even think about even if you have a failure, it's not a failure, right? It's you learning how to do things better. So give yourself grace. You're going to try some things that aren't going to work. You may even try some things that work really well for your cooperating teacher that don't work really well for you. So you'll have to kind of figure out your own cadence. But if you do have something that fails, take the time to reflect on what didn't go as well as you thought it would have, and what you could have done differently. Part of it may be that, the students that you have, especially if you're teaching more than one class, it may work great with one group of students and not with others. So really, you've heard everybody mention, get to know your students. Having that relationship with your students is probably one of the greatest rewards, but it will also make your life as a teacher so much easier because you will be able to craft lessons that you know will engage your students. Okay, we are grabbing one, the sensor, I will be back in a little bit, but, what questions do you all have? So what's the number one thing that they look for in a student?
And what?
Teacher candidate. Gosh, I don't know, for me, I don't know that it's just one thing. I think one of the greatest things that we look for is somebody who's committed, because we know that teaching is not an easy job, right? And so you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, but you're committed, you're there every day. But also flexibility and adaptability, right? Because things change. The way that our schools work, you may end up getting a job and you might start at one school, and if student populations increase or decrease, you might go to a different school, you might teach a different grade level from one year to the next. And so just that flexibility and adaptability is so important, because we have to be able to move and make quick adjustments to be able to support our students. In my case, it's not always what you look for, but you listen for. So someone who puts students first, who talks in a very positive way about classroom experiences, those that worked, and those perhaps that were learning experiences for both the teacher and the student. Someone who speaks highly of the profession and is excited about the what's next. You know, as 1 year ends, as you start to wrap up one school year and you start to say goodbye to this group of kids, you know, the everybody's really going to miss them. I can't wait to see who'll be in the classroom next year. So it's not always just what you look for, what you wish.
One of the considerably done, two colleagues here, discussed it really well.
And I guess the only thing that I'm gonna say is just love what you do, right? And it shouldn't matter whether it's teaching, whether it's life, whether it's whatever you do on your off time. Love what you do. And I will tell you, no matter what, no matter how that interview goes, the people on the other side of that table or in that classroom are gonna know what you have. We've done this a long time. And I will tell you, and they can probably get you, within 30 seconds, we can tell whether you're the fit, within 30 seconds. How? That I can't really disclose. But quick, I think the principal will be able to tell you here in a second.
You know, I always think what I want you teaching my boys, right? What I want you in the classroom with my two sons. And so they're all right. And so you have to love the kids, you have to love what you're doing, and be passionate about it. And when we see that, we're like, yep, want him, yep, want her.
So either from your personal experiences or from teachers in your schools, two-part question, what's something that stood out that a teacher candidate has done at your schools? And what's something that, in a good way, and also in like something they really shouldn't have done? So like the good and the bad for a specific teacher candidate example.
So just for the people in the back, what is something that has stood out for a good candidate and maybe something that they did that was not so great? That's
I think some of the good things that I've seen are you talking about the interview or during the student teaching?
Like when they're actually doing the student teaching, what's like one example of a student teacher that really stood out, something they did good and then a bad experience too. Not necessarily with the same student.
Right, no. So I'm just thinking back to the student teachers that I know by name, right? And I see them and I talk to them. They are there early, they are there working hard, late, you know, going to the basketball games or the football games, really engaging with the staff, with the administrators and with the kids. And so those are the ones that stand out to me. That I really can't say.
So I'll say on the positive end, I would say was usually the student teachers who You know, when I say, you hear that, goes above and beyond, right? That can mean lots and lots of things, but it was usually those student teachers who, kind of like she said, were there early, were out on duty, were always, if somebody would walk into the school, they'd have no idea that that was a student teacher, right? They kind of fit in, it just seemed like part of the staff, they just got it, right? So that on the positive end. And I think maybe on the need to work on end, the two things that I had to kind of address or had my my assistant principal address, because it was female stuff, but dress code for some, and then social media is the other one.
So positive, I would say, definitely getting involved in all aspects of the school. Even going to administration and saying, you know, do you need assistance covering lunch duties? You know, just those small little things go a long way. But then definitely working with the cooperative teacher in a very positive way. Listening, gathering information, sharing ideas. As far as a negative, I could say that one thing that came across is a student teacher that was not receptive to critique, was not receptive to working with their cooperating teacher, felt that they knew more than the cooperating teacher, and that just came to be a disastrous, time for that student teacher. And likewise, the cooperating teacher who was not able to really work with that student teacher. So be receptive to ideas, talk, gather information, and just learn as much as you can during this time frame.
Like my colleagues have said, I think when we see initiative by a student teacher, that's what really stands out for us. Because teaching is one of the most private things you'll ever do once you get your own classroom, right? And so we want you to be somebody who takes initiative, who is heavily involved, but also somebody who's able to build relationships with students, family, and their colleagues. Probably the part that I would say that has stood out for me is really thinking about how you have relationships with others, right? So we're probably where I've had to deal with some of the student teachers or teachers who don't have professional relationships, especially if you're teaching at secondary, you're only going to be a few years older than some of the kids that you're working with. And so really ensuring that you are above reproach, right? Don't do anything that could ever hurt one of our students. Whether it's, physically, emotionally, just that's the biggest thing, that I always tell people, don't do anything that could ever hurt one of our students.
Pink sheet.
So what part of social media could be negative?
So not to kind of, I guess, be the social media whatever, but obviously lots and lots of platforms with social media, because, as it's kind of evolved, there's been more things, and having to be involved in the employee relations piece where we're having to investigate people that are posting lots and lots of different things. So my suggestion to this group here is, if you have a social media platform handle, whatever it may be, make sure it's, maybe your name, maybe, whatever, but not like, just if you're giggling, you probably have an idea what I'm saying. So, and the same thing kind of goes for what you decide to post. What you decide to post on social media. One of the things, you're getting into a profession that everybody's going to look at. The minute those parents find out who their teacher is, and those kids find out who that teacher is, they're going to go search you everywhere. Every social media thing, they're going to look for you. And that can be on the positive end, or that can be on the negative end. If you decided that while you were out last Friday night doing whatever you do on a Friday night at 1:15 a.m. and you're doing up. Those are the things, not to say that you shouldn't do that, but don't post it, right? So just, if those are things that have kind of been doing as you're getting into this part of your adult life, you need to switch it off. And sometimes that's easier said than done, but take it from a group of people who have to deal with having a conversation with you. And sometimes it's, we loved having you work for us, but you can no longer work for us, type of thing. So that wasn't very specific, but it's very general. Anyone else on social media? Trying to be very vague.
Okay, real quick, if you want to pass the microphone to the end, we have one other day joining us today. Do you introduce people, tell them a little bit about home and education, remind you of the school?
Hey, my name is Martin Montaigne, I'm the director of professional learning in Introvert ISD. I've been in education, this month is going to be 33 years. I did elementary, facilitator, AP, principal, now director. And I got into education, I think, because my mom was a kindergarten teacher forever. So when I come back from high school, walked to her classroom, her kindergarten kids were there. So I got to see how she worked with the students, and I pretended to be a teacher along with her. So that inspired me a lot. I went to the same college that she went to, and it just that pathway. I didn't think I would really want to be a teacher. That wasn't my original career choice. But after seeing how she impacted students, diverse populations, second language learners, I was like, wow, she's really good at what she does. I want to be like my mom. So here I am, 33 years later.
Okay, next question. Did you have? Yeah, it would.
Yes, go ahead.
Wanted to ask, so y'all been in this job for a long time. What is something that is stuck with some questions regarding that is carrying on today?
Since I am the mic, I guess I'll start. I think mainly when I think back to my first, actually my clinical teaching back in the days, we just did a semester, almost paid for it all. But I had an awesome principal. He was a great role model, very caring. To be fair and firm, he went to discipline, went to be strong, went to lay down the law type thing. But he cared about every one of his teachers. He cared about the students. That made a big impact on me. And so to this day, he's still, he knows my mom because they're in education as well. We're in the town of Yuma, Arizona, but it's very close knit community. And so seeing how he was as his character made me want to be like him. He knew how to treat people with respect, never disciplined or made anybody feel belittled, kept everything private. And if you, and I can come back to my student teaching experience, something just went horrible that day. And I was like, that's not my teaching service. Yeah, I want you to come back and serve me. And he was like, he still remembers that. He's like, okay, Thomasina, I'm ready for that second observation. It's like, really, 33 years later, come on. But he didn't make me feel like horrible because whatever you can think of had happened that adolescent, it happened. And with 36 kids in the classroom, but that to me, he gave me a chance and never gave up on me and knew that I could do better, but never let that stay, never let that influence how I was as a teacher. He wanted to hire me after I did my clinical teaching experience. And that's the kind of person I wanted to be. Treat others like you want to be treated, just like kindergarten rules. And very well respected. So that's the kind of person I wanted to be like. So he was the one who initially inspired me.
For me, it's taking advantage of all of the professional development that's afforded to you through the district, right? Sometimes you're like, oh my God, I could grade papers, or, you know, you have a million other things to do, right? We all do. But, you know, it's just like taking one or two like main things from that one PE and implementing it, trying it out. You know, it's not going to hurt, just try it. Then you might learn, hey, I really liked it, or I see where they're going with this. You know, be open, right? Be open and say, I don't know it all.
one thing I would say is, the first 3 years, you're gonna find your footing in the classroom. And really, those first 3 years, keep on going. I mean, they're gonna have some great days, you're gonna have not so great days. Just really keep everything in perspective. Treat everything as a learning opportunity, be reflective. I think that was the biggest thing for me, when I first started out. I really felt like I had to have everything down pat perfect, my first day in class. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You're gonna find your footing, it takes time, and stay with it. We need you as a profession in the classroom. You're coming from a university that gives you a great wealth of knowledge, and you're going to be doing your student teaching, so you're going to have a leg up on a lot of the other candidates out there who are not going through a traditional program. We have many of our candidates are coming from an alternative program, so they don't have the experience working with students. So really cherish this time and really glean and learn as much as you can.
I think the thing that has kept me in this profession all of these years, people like this. I have worked with only the best. I think in all of my years, I worked with two stinkers that came into this world that way, and they went right. And it was not my fault. I work with people who really and truly care about the kids in their classroom, care about the teacher in the store. And I never, ever felt alone. And I'm not sure that other jobs can afford that kind of that level of professionalism. I knew that I could ask for help and help would be good. And so I stayed in this profession all of these years because, man, I sure like the people I get to work with. I think one of the things I learned when I was doing student teaching and early on in my career is to not judge a student or a colleague by the way they look, clothes they wear, all of those different pieces, right? And so I learned to just love people for who they were and have high expectations for my students regardless of their circumstances. And so sometimes it's really easy when we get into education and we know we've got students who have some difficult circumstances to make excuses for them rather than holding them accountable. So for me, that was a really strong lesson that I learned early on, was to set those really high expectations for all of my students and then not judge anybody that came in. The other thing that I learned was how to be reflective, right? Your day is going so crazy, you're teaching all day, and sometimes you don't always have time to stop and reflect. And so my cooperating teacher taught me to keep a Post-it pad with me. And so as I was teaching, if something went really well, I'd make a really quick little sticky note about what went well. If it didn't go well, I'd make a quick note to say, don't ever do this again, right? And I'd stick it in I'd stick it on the lesson plan. So then when I had time to come back and reflect on it, I had notes about what went well and what didn't go so well, rather than trying to remember what happened a week ago. It's easy to remember what didn't go well. If you don't remember what didn't go well, be sure to write down what did go well. Make sure that you spend time just celebrating those moments.
Or share color when it comes to teachers and student teaching.
Tattoos and, different hair color. You've definitely seen school districts take a different shift in regards to how rigid they are, and that the thing that you want to make sure is that any tattoo or anything that is showing is appropriate, that there's nothing that would have a negative connotation to it. Remember, you're being observed by the public out there, parents are looking at you and, researching through social media. But I think most school districts are getting more flexible with that. However, there are limits that you don't want to overstep.
So I know I've heard, it's pretty common for teachers who teach elective classes. Sometimes they get actually split between different campuses. Is that really common and how would that go about? Because I'd imagine when you're applying for a job, it's at one school, but then maybe they're like, oh, we're actually gonna split you between campuses. How does that come about and like, how does that work exactly?
So for us Northeast, you would know that prior to applying to a job if it's split between campuses. We post our position, so it would say we would be at Roosevelt and Madison. And usually you see that with the electives that are hard to fill, say, for example, Japanese teachers. So they're not very common. So when we do have a Japanese teacher, they may teach 2 sections at one campus and so many sections on another campus. But you would know that with Northeast going in to where you would apply.
And it's strategic. We would try to make sure you're as close together as possible, not two campuses.
And you get travel allotment.
Same with Northside, be posted travel allotment. We're also pretty strategic in not having you go from Bernie to SeaWorld. Right?
The only thing I'll mention is when we do have a position that's split, we typically try to have both principals do the interview together. That way, they both have the ability to give some feedback about that teacher, so the teacher will be both.
We'll go all the way back in the pink, all the way back there. Yes, you're gonna have to project your voice.
And I say to them, maybe that's a 4 years, I don't like it, I still can't apply for the job. Then how would I convince myself that, hey, we can do this, hey, you trying to get after this work done. It's your thoughts.
So I think you go back to the reasons why you became a teacher, right? I mentioned I became a teacher because I had some really amazing experiences being in my son who has autism, being in his classroom and seeing what other teachers do. So you're always going to have naysayers who will make comments about being a teacher, but that's okay. They didn't choose to be a teacher. We probably don't want them in the classroom. But you chose to be a teacher for a reason. And so I always encourage people to go back to what led you to that. And going in with the mindset of, I'm going to give it a couple of, no, don't say I'm going to give it a couple of years. Just say, this is my career. I want to go forward. And if you do have some struggles, then reach out and gather those resources. Our districts are so resource rich. We have a number of people, if you are struggling and you're not quite sure, where we can support you to really, we want to give you as much support as possible because we don't ever want to lose somebody who's decided to become a teacher, because obviously there was something in you that led you to make that decision.
There are a lot of other jobs out there that you are interested in too. So it's okay. It's okay when someone says, oh, good luck with that. Luck has nothing to do with it. I'm good at this. I'm actually very good at this. And that's what I tell people when they say, gosh, you stayed in it all this time. I say, yeah, but I'm really good at it. I'm actually pretty doggone good at it. I am the teacher parents wanted. I had the second or third one, in the same family. I knew where there were nights. There were weeks I'm not even sure I cooked dinner. I know things dropped off. And it was great. It's the best job in the world. So I'm gonna be honest with you. Luck has nothing to do with it. It's a lot of skill, a lot of dedication, a lot of love, and it's certainly worth it.
Just be the defender of the profession. We need you as educators to defend the profession. There is not a job out there that's more worthwhile than being a teacher. And I can say that I have people that have retired many years ago. They're still getting letters from their former students who now they're doctors or they're lawyers or they're on Broadway. And that's the most rewarding thing in this profession, is that your students, if you make an impact with them, they're going to keep in touch. They're going to follow you, but we need to be the defenders of our profession. And so many times you'll hear negative things coming from you know, the state or the different aspects, or maybe a parent's upset. The thing is, when you walk, as she said, why did you go into this profession? And I remember when I was here at UTSA, one of the professors asked us to run why we were going to be a teacher. And I still have that letter to this day. So really know your why. Nobody can take that away from you. You are doing the most noble job, and I know I'm biased because I'm in the profession, but there is really no profession that you will have so much great reward than being a teacher. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart.
So what I'll say to you in the back who asked that question is you've made it this far, right? By choice. You've chosen this profession, you've chosen this major, you've chosen to get to the point where you're going to student teach. You could have bailed a long time ago. So you're still here, right? As is everybody else who sits in this room. And I will tell you, this is the group. This group in this room today is the group that can flip the script, right? Everything that you hear is negative about education, about being a teacher. Why do you want to be a teacher? You know, and gone are the days of, well, you know, I get summers off, and I get this off, and I get this off, which you do to a good extent. But you chose this for a reason. Why did you choose this? When somebody asks, why do you want to be a teacher? Your response should be, well, why aren't you a teacher? So I think this is a group that we are going to continue to watch, and we want this to be the group that kind of sets the stage. So we get back to filling auditoriums. We were just talking about this. Pre-COVID, this room would have been full with people wanting to be teachers, right? We need to get back to that. And you in this room are the ones that are going to convince the ones coming up exactly why they need to be teachers. So that's my challenge to this group.
Okay, I'm gonna kick it up a notch. Everything they said is true, but also consider all the many districts we have in San Antonio. Some have people have negative opinions. You don't want to go to that district because the kids are poor there, or there you have 2 minutes high, economically disadvantaged. Same thing. Don't discount other districts of what other people have said until you've stepped into that district and experienced what the kids learn there, because children are children. It's just where they live is a different place, but we all offer opportunities for students. So please don't discount certain districts because of where they're located. So think about that as well.
Okay, we're gonna take maybe 2 or 3 more questions. Go ahead.
My question was, you're in your teaching or in your first year of teaching that you felt that you weren't really prepared for going in, and what advice would you offer to prepare us?
For me, when I did my clinical teaching, I had never been around students that had mental health issues. And so that was something where I had to learn and understand, how to respond to students who maybe I had students with schizophrenia, right? And so to be able to respond to that student in a way that was loving but firm, and knowing when the student was starting to spiral. We do have a lot of our students after the pandemic that struggle with mental health. And so, you can read and read and read, but until you actually are working with students who have some of those challenges, it's sometimes hard to know how to respond. And so if you do experience that, every district's going to have a team of special education providers who are going to have LSSPs and diagnosticians and counselors that can give you support on how to best support our students that might have some of those needs.
And you're going to be coming into classrooms where there may be seasoned teachers. And when I started, I felt like, wow, the teachers here have been teaching for 10, 15, 20 years. And I hear I'm a newbie coming with ideas that were different from the pedagogy they received when they went to college. So sometimes you may feel like a low person on the totem pole and that your ideas are not valued, but stay strong, stand strong to that, because don't let that intimidate you, because you bring new learning to them as well. You will learn from them and they will learn from you. So keep an open mind and don't take it personally, because sometimes it's not the children that sometimes we have the issues with, sometimes the adult learners. And how we all have different learning styles and work experience, and how we work together cohesively and collaboratively without offending others. So bring that learning, but be receptive as well. That makes sense.
Okay, so assuming that y'all would agree with the statement that investing in our students' future, students' education is to invest in our future. Right? What would y'all say is the goal? What kind of future do y'all expect based on the education in y'all's particular district or school?
I would say it's not just about the academics and preparing them for graduating, because by the time we graduate, we don't know what kind of jobs are going to be available. So getting the military ready, career ready, trade, college is having those skill sets. It's not just one area, just focus on academics, that's it. Because children have talents in so many different areas. So how can we teach to become well-rounded in those areas? That's our goal. It's not just a one-size-fits-all. How do we include all of that? And also to be socially, emotionally strong and ready to go out into the working world in whatever capacity they want to, or the future that the jobs they want. Being organized, not procrastinating, being a team player, like all of those things are to your benefit, right? To everyone's benefit. And if you can't play well with others, you're going to struggle, right? And so all of those things, but the procrastination, the organization, I mean, I've been there, right? 2 o'clock in the morning trying to finish the papers. Had I just budgeted my time, right? Then I wouldn't be at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to finish up my paper. And so those are some tough lessons that you learn, right? That we've all learned. But those are things that our kids need to learn too.
I think the only other thing I'm gonna add is I think it's okay to teach kids how to fail, right? And what that's like. Because I think a lot of times as parents, and most of us up here, if not all of us, are parents as well. And I think we do a disservice to our kids when we don't allow them to fail, or we make excuses for them when they do fail, right? Because then as they grow up, if you're not used to coming in second place, or just, not scoring 100 on that paper because, mom said you need to have 100. That's one of the things that we really need to work with our kids, because, as we've seen and we've heard, everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a medal. That's not real life, right? That does not happen in these jobs that you're going into. So as important as academics is, so is the other piece when you're working with these kids. And I think if they're not teaching it at home, we're teaching it at school, however we can.
So as far as, what my colleague said, we're preparing students for, jobs that we may not even know what they may look like in the future. The most important piece is to teach our students to be critical thinkers. And, you do that through the level of your questioning, but no matter what topic it is, for them to really examine it, to explore it, to be those critical thinkers and not just to take something on its surface. I think that's the best we can do for our students. We may be able to prepare for, a job that we think is going to be in the future. However, we want them to be critical thinkers. And even as an elementary teacher, you want them to be able to look at a problem, come up with solutions, and maybe out of the box thinking, encourage that. And as Ben said, it's okay if they fail, they tried, and, really taking those successes and failures, all together as part of a learning process. But that, I think, is the most important thing that we can do for our students, is to really encourage them to be critical thinkers and to really explore all avenues.
Does anyone have a question on this side? Do one more. Go ahead.
I know that for students and their exams are important, so how would you guys best advocate for students outside and inside the class?
part of it is getting to know your students. I think, you know, Ben mentioned earlier, I don't remember if it's Ben or somebody else, but go to their games, go to their, you know, take time to get to know, what's important to them. Because if you know what makes them tick, you're gonna have that relationship that's going to get them to work for you. They're going to want to work for you because they know that you know, that old adage, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's so true when you're in a classroom. Kids want to know that you care about them, and so getting to know what they like in terms of school, right? But also what are those things that drive them outside of school? And it can be as simple as having a conversation about, oh, I know you had a, you know, a match this weekend. How did that go? It doesn't, you don't have to be at every event, but just letting them know that you know what's going on in their lives is really important to them.
And be an advocate for your students, but when kids know that you stand with them. That doesn't mean you make it easy, and it doesn't always mean you agree, but it means that you're a student in my classroom, we're in this together. That's probably the greatest of it, is that you have a partner, and I will work with you, and we will work together.
I want to give a real life example real quick on impacts you make on kids, right? So back in the day when I was an assistant principal, there was a behavioral kid, right? I did elementary, so there was a behavioral kid, and every day he'd come in and there'd be issues, right? So immediately we talked to Spurs, and this is back in the day when the Spurs were good, right? They were winning. They were winning championships, right? Duncan, Ginobili, Marker, the glory days, right? But every day we talked about the Spurs, and we'd go outside and play basketball. 2019, this young man graduated from Texas A&M San Antonio. And of course, I get an invitation to go. I couldn't go to the graduation, but I went to the after party, right? You don't necessarily realize the impact you make on kids until sometimes later in life, right? So what you do every single day, they're watching, they're listening, and at some point, there's going to be a kid that you will impact who have no idea. This kid told me the only reason I made it to where I did is because you continued, and I touched base with him in middle school and high school, and also in his beginning years of college. So sometimes it takes a little bit extra. And sometimes those that want to make a true impact will do that little bit of extra. So that's just a little story to share that you don't necessarily know until sometimes later on the impact that you make. Because every single one of you will impact a child's life positively or negatively.
I'm just gonna add as far as like clubs, anything that you're interested in, once you start finding out that kids are interested. Anything really helps to kind of build up those relationships. And then advocating for kids, you know, I remember having this young lady in my class, it was a regular class, girlfriend, like, you need to be in an honors class or an advanced class, or have you tried dual credit, or have you, you know, and just really advocating for that student and for that student and her education and her needs, or maybe the class is too tough, you know, whatever it is. But whatever that student needs, you're their voice, right? You're their voice. And contacting parents goes a long way. Especially when they're doing great, right? Because sometimes those bad conversations are pretty tough, but if you've had a lot of really good conversations, that bad one isn't that bad. Okay? We fail to mention parents, and parents are critical and crucial in the kids' education.
Okay, well, thank you all for your time today. We finished a few minutes early. That way, if you all have other questions, you want to come talk individually, you can, but we appreciate you all. And Dr. Clyde, I know we already told you all your trouble for Martin, so be sure to show.
My name is